Good morning, everybody. Very excited to be here, and shout out and thank you to Carr and to the whole PlebLab team for putting this event on. Yeah, please. Most importantly, maintaining Austin's dominant position as the Bitcoin capital of the world. Very excited to be talking with you all today about the next generation of building on Bitcoin. And I would also be remiss, I don't know, for those of you that don't have a crippling Twitter addiction like I do, you may have missed that a judge in the UK ruled today that Craig Wright is officially not Satoshi. Very exciting milestone for Bitcoin, and I think is a nice little segue into this, which with that going on, with the ETFs going on, I don't know if you've noticed, but it's become very cool to be saying that you're building on Bitcoin now, and that has not always been the case. So I think it's really exciting time to be building on Bitcoin. And for those that don't know me or don't know my history, I'm the head of business development at Lightning Labs. And I got into kind of crypto broadly in 2017. And my first job was working at a crypto hedge fund, investing in, non-Bitcoin projects. And it just infuriated me, the number of really talented, smart, earnest developers who chose to launch their own token or build on some other blockchain other than Bitcoin, because either the thing that they wanted to build, either wasn't possible or they couldn't figure out how to build it on Bitcoin, or there were misaligned, incentives driving them towards other projects. So, I'm very excited personally to see that, some 6 years later, now there's a whole bunch of energy, in building on Bitcoin. And, I do think a large part of that is, you look at Lightning's success over the last 3 years, and while it's still there's still work to be done, I think it's undoubtable that thanks to all the hundreds of companies in the space and hundreds of developers in the space that have collectively grown the Lightning Network, there are now developers looking at this and saying, okay, there's potential to build more things on Bitcoin. There's potential to extend the capabilities and leverage the properties that Bitcoin has, to build either my own kind of off-chain protocol or my own type of application or project. So one thing about this that I think is interesting, and if you haven't heard about all of these yet, I promise you will hear an enormous amount about them the rest of this year, is all of the new kind of Bitcoin layer 2s that are coming. So this slide is most definitely not an endorsement, but I do want to say that I had the privilege last year of attending Lisa's talk at Consensus here in Austin, where she talked about, I have the headline here in the middle. She talked about how the next big thing that was coming to Bitcoin was this Cambrian explosion of Bitcoin layer 2 protocols. And I'll be honest, at the time watching the presentation, I was kind of like, really? Do you think so? I don't know. Well, what kind of layer 2s would you build? And I've, she was 100% right, and I was definitely wrong. And so just kind of, I made a nice little circular diagram here of a bunch of them, but we have Fedimints, we have Cashew, we have things called spider chains, Arc, the BitVM stuff, ZK rollups, Marathon, the public, miner is launching their own Bitcoin layer 2. And then there's some other here's that I just kind of looked on Twitter for Bitcoin layer 2 and found some logos. Again, this is most definitely not an endorsement, but there's a whole bunch of new stuff coming. And I think that is really exciting. And you will hear a lot about that, but kind of what I want to talk about today is, a lot of these things are kind of in development, requiring more research. Some of them are, speculative in their concerns. What I want to talk about today is a couple of new capabilities that are coming out that are available now that, developers can mess with today. And so first I want to talk about, kind of Bitcoin native swaps with Tappered Assets. So this is something, and these slides are something that I stole from our great developer, George, who just put this out, this demo. We demoed it in our community call last Thursday. And I think this is just a really new capability for Bitcoin developers that I want to highlight. So, atomic swaps have been a theory, something people have theorized about for many years, and now we have a really easy way to do so with Tappered Assets. So what does this Bitcoin native swap look like? If I have Alice, who has 1,000 sats and 100K USD as a Tappered asset, and Bob, who has a Bitcoin, and they want to do a swap. And for those that are unfamiliar with Tappered Assets, this is a protocol being developed by Lightning Labs for native asset issuance on Bitcoin. And the way that you can think about the USD here is Tappered Assets are kind of UTXOs within a UTXO. So Alice will have a 1K sat UTXO on chain that includes within it 100K USD, right? So Alice says, hey, you want to swap my 100K USD for your Bitcoin? And I chose this price because at 100K USD, I can finally take the laser eyes off of my Twitter profile pic. Please buy my bags. Bob says, yes, I would like to do that swap. So what Alice does is she constructs a PSBT, partially signed Bitcoin transaction, where she puts in, on the input side, I have this, UTXO that's 1K sats and contains 100K USD. And in order to complete this transaction, you need to pay me a 1 Bitcoin output, right? So I'm putting 100K USD in and I'm getting 1 BTC out. She signs on the Bitcoin side, Bitcoin level, with SIG hash single and anyone can pay. And I'll talk a little bit about this on the next slide. And on the Tappered Assets side, she signs with SIG hash none. So if folks are unfamiliar with SIG hashes, there's links and things like that in the documentation about what all those means. But for the, on the Bitcoin side, you can see, of course, she commits to her reward this 1 Bitcoin output, meaning that in order to claim the Tappered Assets transfer, you need to bring your own Bitcoin to satisfy consensus. And so what does satisfy consensus in here mean? Obviously, you can't just have 1K sats on the input and 1 Bitcoin on the output. That's not balanced. You're creating new Bitcoin. Consensus would fail the transaction. You need to bring a Bitcoin on the input side of your own to help balance that out. And on the SIG hash none side, this allows anybody to claim, the USD here on the Tappered Assets level. And so that I think is really cool because this makes this PSBT that she's created, this is a permissionless offer. Anybody can take this, string of characters. You could publish it on Nostr. You could publish it on a website. You could, directly give it to somebody off, in iMessage or something, and they could complete this offer and complete the swap. So what happens? She sends the PSBT to Bob. Bob then inputs his 1 Bitcoin input. He puts on the output side, I would like to be paid, the 1,000K sat UTXO that contains 100K USD. Submits that to the Bitcoin network, submits kind of the Tappered Asset level proof to a Universe server optionally, and boom, permissionless swap, completely atomic, trustless, completed. So this is, I think, like a brand new capability for developers that, we're really excited about, that, being able to go in between, fiat and Bitcoin has always been a pain generally. And now being able to go between, stable coins and Bitcoin natively with kind of no intermediary, just using Bitcoin tech and partially signed Bitcoin transactions, I think is super exciting. So be on the lookout for that. And if you want to check out the code, have a QR code here. And of course, we'll be making, a lot more noise about this, going forwards once we have kind of the next big release. The second really exciting capability that I think people are starting to leverage, and you heard a lot about this from Chris at Open Agents earlier, is the L402 protocol for API monetization. So if folks aren't familiar with L402, this is a reference to the HTTP 402 payment required error code, which has been in the spec for since the early 90s, but there just wasn't a digitally native internet money to make use of this error code. So, the Lightning Labs team has put together, this L402 specification, which is an open spec. I think also, at a hackathon last year, I believe, Lisa implemented this in C Lightning or something else. There's a couple, this is expanded, far beyond Lightning Labs at this point, which is really exciting. And just kind of to show you, what exactly that looks like. You have a client that wants to get a resource from a server, whether it's, Bitcoin price information, like Chris showed earlier, weather data, or, large data sets. It could be any sort of resource from a server. The client says, I want something from a server. The server says, okay, maybe, but you need to pay me first. And here's an invoice to do so. The client pays the invoice with a Lightning payment and receives kind of this proof of payment, this L402 token, this access token that says, I have paid and now I can access this resource. And once that's been done, the client then can use that L402 to access the resource going forwards. So it's a very simple, protocol, but, with profound implications. And so, who's using this today? And, why would you use it? You can charge for access to any digital resource sold on the internet. And I think this is becoming more and more important as you see companies like Reddit, companies like Twitter lock down their APIs because, all of these AI companies are just scraping up as much data as they can and monetizing it without paying. So I think this is a trend you're going to see more and more of needing to monetize and paywall your data. on the internet. And so, of course, we have, open agents equipping agents that can consume any L402 endpoint. I'm super excited about their big launch today. We have a company, Sulu Solutions, who is kind of on the other side, providing an easy way to, protect your APIs with the L402 error code, and also has kind of some open source contributions there, first in Go, and I think they're planning to, provide clients in multiple languages. We have FewSats, who's working on kind of monetizing code recipes via L402. So if you just want to upload like a little function to their marketplace, desire for being able to get paid per any developer globally using your function, which is pretty cool and kind of has an open source Python library. The Cashew folks have kind of their own flavor of the L402 protocol with an eCache twist, which I think is very exciting. And then what I'm really excited about, I don't know if Jim is in the room right now, but Cascader, a project that's competing in the Top Builder project from PlebLab, has a really cool kind of Zapier for paid API services like AI vision, text image generation, and more using L402 that I am like a consistent user of. I think my favorite tool is being able to pay like 1,000 sats for a summary of a YouTube video or a podcast. That's just, I would do that all the time. I do it all the time. And so super excited about kind of these new capabilities that are coming to bear. So again, if you want to check out L402, we have, there's an awesome L402 repo here with kind of all the various resources. And of course, we'll be posting this stuff online or ask me later. But yeah, super excited about, the future of building on Bitcoin. These are kind of two new protocols that, we're super excited about and see a lot of developer interest in, and, excited to hear for the rest of the day about what the PlebLab folks have been up to and what the rest of you are building. So thank you so much.